Very rarely do I say that a new vehicle could potentially be groundbreaking for the whole vehicle segment. But this one here might be a candidate for it. This is now the final reveal of the all-new electric BMW X3, the all-new generation of the BMW iX3, which marks the introduction of a whole new vehicle platform, the Neue Klasse, literal translation, new class at BMW. So this will also be the base for the new electric 3 Series. So even more important, and can this vehicle here save the German automotive industry? We're going to find out here with Thomas and Autogefuehl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the new BMW face, which will be used on many new BMWs. And if you think that this is here an all-new idea, BMW double kidneys used to look that way when they used the Neue Klasse vehicles decades ago. So this is indeed a citation of the past. Either you get it more subtle if you don't like an illuminated kidney, or there's in the package together with matrix LED. Then you have this illumination of the double kidney plus this additional illumination at the side. If you would not have this package, then you only have the daytime running light there at the side. Ocean Wave is this beautiful blue color, and I think it really fits the vehicle very well. You see the exterior design language is now more monolithic, so rather simple in the design, let's take it that way. And the CD value is at 0.24. This is a massive improvement in comparison to a normal combustion engine BMW X3, for example. And what will also be super interesting, we'll later talk about the price, and the price will be competitive and comparable to nowadays, for example, plug-in hybrid X3. So this will also be a crucial point. Might this vehicle even catch the whole premium EV segment, not only SUVs? The length is 4,78 meters or 188 inches, so just a little bit longer than the normal current BMW X3. Typical, well, mid-size or in the US you say compact, but in Europe this is mid-size SUV, to us at least, but always depending on definition. 20-inch wheels are standard. These here are 22-inch wheels, the biggest ones available, also with an aerodynamic design. Different designs are available, and the aluminum used for the wheels has a 70% share of secondary aluminum. So they not only use primary material, that's also a scheme of this vehicle, that they plan from the production that it's more sustainable than all vehicles before. The production plant also with renewable energies and so on. And they really try to look into the whole supply chain, every single detail to make it more sustainable. I think it's a very interesting approach, and also leading actually in the industry with this vehicle here. Very interesting. Flush door handles. We soon go in detail to that when we open the interior of the car, which will again be groundbreaking because never before has a BMW used this kind of interior. Then we see here really large hip area. So you do see some X3, but then new accentuations and definitely more open areas and everything really aerodynamically optimized. New tail lamp design here, very modern then in this case. And then you see this diffuser style in the lower part. This vehicle here is equipped with the M Sport Pack, so you will have a base look, then an M Sport Pack with some more sporty accentuations. And if you would go for the M Sport Package Pro, you will have more black accentuations. For example, here the top wing will be black, this lower element will be in black, and also the side mirror caps will be in black, for example. And already to some technical features. This one here is the iX3 50 or X-Drive 50. This means it's the all-wheel drive version, one electric motor in the rear, one in the front, 470 horsepower system output, and the power distribution is roughly 2/3 rear, 1/3 in the front. So the rear electric motor is the stronger one. And of course, always important facts and figures for a BMW, for a BMW, as we say in Germany. Listen and repeat, BMW. Bayerische Motorenwerke, Bavarian Motor Works. This one accelerates here as the X-Drive 50 in 4.9 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, and the top speed is 210 kilometers an hour, means 130 miles per hour. It's also fast enough for the German Autobahn, and of course, as soon as possible, we will also take it for you to the German Autobahn. Later on, there will also be an entry-level version with a rear electric motor, and there will also be an entry-level smaller battery. However, this one here, as it starts, is the bigger battery, which is at 108 kilowatt hours net usable size. And this is indeed huge, not achieved yet in this segment. Just 2 days from the premiere of this vehicle here, we'll also present you the Mercedes GLC Electric, the new platform there as well. Let's see how that one of the main competitors, will compare to that. But this battery size here, together with the new efficiency, will indeed be groundbreaking for this segment. And the EPA figure says 400 miles. That would be like 640 kilometers. And that's like the realistic range, you know. The WLTP, the European figure, is even higher, more like 800. But this could really be a realistic case. Although it's an SUV, it's really aero efficient, and also the whole efficiency in the drivetrain and so on, they really optimized everything, that it's like 1/3 better than the previous generation. And yeah, that could really lead a lot of premium EV customers and even non-EV customers to this vehicle here now. And it might even be something where we, like for Leah and I, where we might think switching over to EVs, because that you have like a realistic real-world range with a car that is not screaming out EV, but really usable. And also then again, fast charging, because when you have like an even longer trip maybe, this one here charges really, really quickly. The charging port is at the passenger side in the rear. And this has a charging peak of 400 kilowatts. And 800 volt architecture, 10 to 80% state of charge. This charging plate, by the way, is intelligent. That means it's not only electric. Usually I don't have to press it because AC, DC charging. Usually it will be the case, I can close it again, that I'm just at the charging station, and by the time I reach the charging station, it will automatically be opened. How the car is doing that, I'll talk about it in the interior, because it also has to do with the user profiles and so on. This is kind of connected a little bit from the technology. Here are the 11 kilowatt AC charging or optional 22 kilowatt AC charging. Then, as I said, 400 kilowatt DC peak, 800 volt architecture. It can also charge 400 volt, no problem. And the 10 to 80% state of charge time is 21 minutes. And yeah, I mean, that's also pretty good. So all the EV facts are basically checked. And there's a huge discussion of how can the German automotive industry survive? There's a lot of pressure from the Chinese manufacturers and so on. And this is really a vehicle that, from the platform itself, goes forward again and can be one of the new superheroes of the German automotive industry. They even built an own new factory for this very platform here and for this very vehicle in Hungary. This factory, as I said, also powered from renewable energies, also all the new technology there on the inside. They even have like a heat storage when they have surplus sun energy that can be used later on in the paint shop and so on. So there is like a whole ecosystem that they have built around the vehicle, and it will also continue very soon on the interior. But now let's show you the Frunk, because this one here then finally gets one also. There we go. Double unlock, as we know from BMW. There we go. And then we have this beautiful detail, right? Here, the BMW logo. I love to see that, really. I love to see it on the front cover. There we go. And I mean, yeah, it's not only usable for a charging cable, also for something else. There are larger Frunks, yes, which maybe can even house like luggage. Wouldn't say maybe for luggage, but definitely some extra things. Wiper fluid can be put in there. And there's also here a nice sound deadening even here underneath. But yeah, BMW logo on the front cover. This is, I think, a great idea. And I can already tell you so far, what we can soon also see on the interior, that BMW is basically a little bit going back to the roots, because recently BMW also took a lot of beating for some of the interior quality stuff, look and feel and so on. And I can already tell you so far, they have really done a lot to basically reverse this. Maybe it will not work for everyone on the exterior. I found it actually quite cool from the exterior. It's also relatively close to the original concept, but the EV facts alone will convince a lot of EV buyers The big question is, of course, if also, for example, combustion engine X3 users will then switch over to the electric version. It also depends on tax incentives and so on, but just from the facts, what we talked about before, it might be really something that could change things. Exterior, as I said, base M Sport or M Sport Pro, then with the black accentuations. Suspension, last thing before we go to the interior, a base suspension. Later on, we also expect an adaptive suspension, but this probably won't be needed. And then there's also a question, wait a minute, air suspension and rear axis steering, what the GLC EV will probably offer, this will not be available here. So no rear axis steering, no air suspension. Because BMW says we want to be efficient, we want to save weight. This all adds to the weight and so on, adds complexity. We also want to keep the price competitive and so on. And we've already driven this one like in the pre-drive. And I could really say, this will be another other element, it really drives like no other electric vehicle before. Why? They kept this linear feeling of stiffness, of chassis rigidity throughout the vehicle. And that means before, sometimes with EVs, they didn't feel that good, or you felt the weight extremely because the battery is like heavy in the middle, very stiff, and maybe the car didn't feel as one. And after driving this one for the first time, I can really say, and I mean, even as an SUV, it really feels as one overall, as a unity. And that's really a good achievement. And so driving-wise, good impression. And even with that base suspension, both in sportiness and comfort, nevertheless, this will be more set to sportiness than the GLC EV, which will be more set to comfort. Now to the doors. Yeah, here the door handles flush or they go out. Also important is the info when there is a crash occurring. The car unlocks and also the door handles fold out. Nevertheless, me personally, I'm always a bigger fan of normal door handles, and also on the aerodynamics doesn't make too big of a difference. If you want the best range for this vehicle, by the way, don't go for the 22-inch wheels. So the smaller it's actually more about the width of the wheel, you know, this is the thing. So go for the smallest wheels if you want the best efficiency, and also not for the M Sport package, but the wheels will be the biggest difference maker. First of all, door closing sound, solid, both for the front and for the rear. And I mean, the handle itself, you know, the difference is at Mercedes, they have similar door handles with a similar mechanism, just that then when you have opened it, then they're basically manual. But here they are actually not. So then it's also just like a touch field, so to speak. And we begin at the inside of the doors. And you know, this was an area where in the current X3 generation, maybe we also expect like changes or facelift there soon, but there was a lot of criticism. And here now, you see they worked massively on that. This is also a bright interior. You don't have to go for it one. There's also a black subtle one in it. But here already the top area is structured and also somewhat soft. Here then also you can, you know, press it in there. And it's also carried out throughout the door. That's beautiful. And this is then the seat control. It also feels nice. Here's the back part of the seat, front part of the seat. And here you can access more seat controls. And also important for possible crash, this is the door unlock. And it is, yes, it's electronic, but it's also a manual one. So if you would just pull it further in an emergency case, there's also like a hard wire behind it where you have the manual unlock, also important. The only thing they have not achieved yet, and yeah, I have already pressed the BMW guys on that, or pushed them on that here. I mean, inside of doors, it's not just plain black plastic. There's also a structure, and it's like, you know, not entirely plain black hard, but I would really wish for a felt covering on the inside there. Some argue say it's better when you have spilled something there. Then it's better again to have it like this. I prefer it when there's a felt on the inside, when you put like a sunglass case in there or something like that. And now it gets even more interesting with that all new interior, and there's so much to say about it, beginning with the steering wheel. There will be different steering wheels available. This is one of them. So the base steering wheel and here the sport steering wheel will look similar. They are a little bit flat on top and the bottom. Then the sport steering here has a more like a sporty look already here with these spokes. And optionally, you will also get an M Sport steering wheel, which has the spokes like here and not there. and is also a round one. So that one would also be available. So 3 steering wheels, and this one here you can get in bright or in black. That's also possible. In black then, also with the perforation at the side, so left and right, would also be a nice alternative. This one then without the perforation, the bright one. And what is really astonishing is here the material quality is really extraordinary. So it's really soft and it looks good, it feels nice, and it's also new animal-free material. It's as durable as the old materials and even feels better. However, what we need to talk about is this field here. It's so-called shy tech, so it's like transparent, and then there are some buttons on there, but it will later on only be shown if you really need it. But we will discuss this one further very soon. Now to the seats. This is the bright styling. I love it from the color. It's also a high-grade leatherette, perforated as well. You can also get this one in black or in brown. That would also be possible. The European markets will also receive a base fabric seat, which I think looks really cool. So some don't like fabric seats, but I think it also has advantages. And it looks more like a living room atmosphere. So I think it's pretty cool. But you also have just the choice, because this one is also here amazing with the perforated leatherette. And the US market will directly start with this one here, and once again in black, white or the brown, whichever color you prefer. Then there would also be an M Sport seat, which also uses some microfiber, so M Perform text here, especially in this upper area. So this will all be available. And at start, they will not offer seat ventilation like you can already get in the normal X3. But I talked to the project leaders, and yeah, we can expect that this one also comes at a later stage. I think it's also very important, although I heard that there's not such a high take rate for seat ventilation, but I think it's very important, especially, by the way, in the Asian markets there. They have really an emphasis on that. Then here, headroom with 189, 6'2", to the side here, and then even more to this panoramic roof. There will either be a fixed, just a hard roof, if you prefer that, like living in a very hot country, very hot state. Or then here, this glass roof, you cannot open it, it goes through, because their emphasis was as much headroom as possible. And you can see it has an integrated tinting. And there's a new special tinting technology. And BMW did some tests where they compared this one to this electrochrome roof, which you can change. And when the electrochrome roof is, so to speak, closed, in this closed electric mode, it has the same heat deadening effect like this one here by standard. Very interesting. And should you want something on top of that, for example, in the Arabic countries often demand that, then you can have like a manual shade on top of that you can pop in from the inside. However, in that case, I would say just get the hard roof. That's it. But that you can also just choose. Steering wheel here, by the way, up and down, in and out, very smooth transition also, and you see it goes really far in and out. Yeah, I mean, the steering wheel design, I think it looks pretty modern, also cool somewhat. It will still cause discussions, also the spokes here, but as I said, you can also get one with the spokes here, and also in the round style would also be possible. And also here you have the new grip in here for the thumbs, and I've driven this one, and this really feels very good. So it's very nice for the handling. Just not convinced of these areas here, but we'll see later about that when we also use the user interface and so on. Visually, I would have maybe wished something different, but there's also a reason behind it. The seat itself here, by the way, is very comfortable. So the ergonomics, so it's also for tall people, wide enough. It also houses you in very well. The M Sport seat would have little higher housing here, but great ergonomics. It's extremely comfortable, good for long term and so on. And boy, there's so much coming up with this with this screen in the front there, which is almost basically a meter or more than 40 inches in width. So soon more to the whole cockpit. Welcome to this completely new cockpit, which will somewhat be also the new cockpit of the new electric 3 series. But here starting with the iX3 with the panoramic vision, and I'll tell you more about it from my perspective very soon, because you cannot see it from the side that well. But this will be a huge change. Optional head-up display still, and standard here the 18-inch infotainment system with an interesting form. Very crystal clear how the monitor quality is actually. I am a fan of physical climate dials, definitely. So I'm still missing that here somewhat. At least what they did is the screen is pretty close to you. So from the steering wheel to the climate unit, it's really, really close and it always stays in the lower area. So for a screen solution, it's fairly easy to do that. And why could they do it? When they have this new panoramic vision, which is further away and also already in a long focus, they then can put the infotainment system closer to you, and then you have these different layers in the car, basically. Again, as I said, head display is an option, but you actually don't need it necessarily in this car anymore, so to speak. Then the seating here again, you can see it also on the passenger side. I think this scheme here is really beautiful and once again very comfortable also for tall persons. Good material quality, you see it throughout the whole car. Also you have the inside, for example, some space underneath here, also with some rubber ground. Also here soft for your elbow. You can open this one here, some space on the interior, 12-volt charger. Gear selection is here, drive and reverse, B for more recuperation. Then here a manual volume jog is still possible, or is still integrated in this vehicle. Inductive charging pad on the left side, cooled, right side 2 USB-C chargers, and also good adaptive cup holders here. And so you have some fabric here on the dashboard where the ambient lighting shines through. Then you also have this dual tone scheme here in this very interior. Again, you don't have to use it. So on the one hand, it's cleaned up. At the same time, what you touch and feel is really high class, good build quality, and yeah, definitely a step up from the models that were recently criticized at BMW. This is, I think, the core thing. The seat adjustment, by the way, is also easily done, and user account is a new big thing here. So it will be connected to the smartphone. So for example, when Leah and I drive the same vehicle, the car actually detects who of us is getting into the vehicle by recognizing like the walkway with the smartphone in your pocket. And then everything is set, for example, to a Leah scheme, the seating, also maybe her favorite background image. You can put different background images in this vehicle. In the same way happens then when I get into the vehicle, that everything is set up for my user account. It's the same technology that is used to recognize when the automatic charging flap opens or closes then again. Very interesting. And how does the panoramic vision work? I can almost show that to you. Do you see that on the lower side? This is like a monitor. It's a screen that is close to the windshield. Then the windshield is tinted and you have an astonishing crystal clear and bright reflection then basically in there. That's cool. So you have the speed in your line of sight and the range and so on. The middle part then already can be individualized. You can, this like this digital voice assistant visualization, you don't have to use it. You can also clear that area up, but you can also put in there whatever you like. So this is highly customizable. Now important with the driver POV here on the left side. So on the one hand, I feel it's not my favorite button solution because it is capacitive. It does give you some kind of feedback. You can also hear that. And they did it that way that some buttons actually only appear when you can use them. For example, here, this parking button will only appear in the final vehicle when there is a parking spot. And the cool thing is, one click and the vehicle parks itself. We also did some demos on that. It works astonishingly well. On the right side, the same thing. Here, for example, for the volume control. Here you can also slide, which I'm absolutely not a fan of. For example, sliding music titles. So this is maybe the thing I'm not so fond of. And the infotainment system up close, you can see here, it's really super quick, responsive. That's what we have been waiting for indeed. Also when you switch between different menus here, for example, here also driving, charging, lighting. In charging, you can also do a manual preconditioning. So of course it's also done when you have the route recalculation. On the left side you will have hotkeys for lane change deactivation, also for the speed chime, this EU law to deactivate it quickly. It will be here on the left side. Of course there's no set button on the steering wheel anymore. This is more like logical here, this list here now. Of course the climate unit still here, first layer. second layer would then be here the seat heating and also the steering wheel heating. Yeah, I like separate buttons for that. But the solution is not too complicated. Let's take it that way. Here, when you are in the manual mode, then you can also turn off the fan again. You can also once again have this full map view, for example. Then here to the vehicle functions again. And this is how you change the driving modes. It will also be possible with voice control. Here, for example, going for sport mode, then you have everything that's in that scheme. Everything changes color-wise. Interesting is that you have the personal mode and can configure also a personal mode. So here configure, and then you can have, and this is not possible with the current BMWs, individual setup, and then for example steering to dynamic, but the rest on comfort. That would be probably pretty cool. Here you can also change the different recuperation levels, for example. What else is important here for the panoramic vision? This is how you individualize what we've shown to you, configure, and then you can remove all different elements here from the panoramic vision and leave it clean like this, or put the individual elements. You can click them, or you can also drag and drop them, so wherever you want to have them. This is actually quite fancy. And another thing you can also personalize are ambient lighting, yes, but also display style. You can change the ambient lighting here, but you can also change the background image. And you can, for example, here they have preferred the BMW Neue Klasse image. So when I'm then now in the home menu, then I have here the BMW Neue Klasse, the past vehicle, where you can see where the inspiration is from. But you can also put your own images to it. For example, here I can put like a dog or a cat there, and always is accessed then when she is entering with her user account. Now to the rear seats. First of all, the rear door. It doesn't open too wide for getting child seats in and out, but I think the opening is still okay. Then here, inside of the doors, you have a structure on top, also soft touch here as well. So that's a good build quality. Integrated speakers. Also here then is soft touch. The only more simple area is here and also in the lower part once again, but it's not the worst finish. But once again, I would wish some felt inlets. Maybe at some point they'll make me happy as for this respect as well. Then here the seats, also the same great quality of materials, and also interesting detail here, the ISOFIX here is nicely covered like in a luxury car, and I love these details. So here then you could just put it up and can install a child seat. You can also put the seat belt here at the side if you don't want to use it some, or maybe like for folding the seats. And you can also adjust the angle here, maybe make a cargo position, or if you want to sit more upright, this is also possible. No adjustment in length, however, in most cases you won't need it. And here in the legroom then, when a tall driver is also sitting in the front, here is enough legroom left. That's good, use it or space. Here to the side, it's a little bit closer, more space into to the top. Although you see here, I'm not sitting under the glass roof, but just here it doesn't, continue all the way in the back. And what you can also see, there's no frame here at the outside. You just see the glass actually. So there's sufficient space here in the rear and also a good seating comfort indeed. In the middle part, you can pull this latch here, and then you have some adaptive lips here also for the cup holders. Pull this one here. Whoa, that goes quickly. Gotta know that. This is then the ski hatch to load things through. We have this even floor. Then 2 USB-C chargers. This is a separate climate unit then for the rear seats, and also separate vents for the rear seats. So that's good. And it continues here in the rear that they have stepped up the build quality once again. This, by the way, here there's some attachment for the rear tablets holders if you like it. And I mean, since this is an SUV, this EV negative effect due to the sandwich building style is not as bad. You know that my knees are high and the hips are low. So it's worse in sedan vehicles. It probably will be more a problem in the 3 Series EV, but here it's still okay. So yeah, good comfort actually on all of the seats here. Trunk or boot, 520 liters. That's liter figure wise a little bit less than with the normal X3. However, then you get the liter figure additionally in the Frunk, of course. But from the usability, you'll see it's actually quite fine. Here this is the integrated cover, and it's actually quite massive, so to speak, in many respects. You see also it really shuts of the trunk, so this will be good for the NVH while driving, so noise, vibration, harshness. Also here, like it really is fitted exactly to the vehicle. You pull it a little bit. That's, I think, an easier mechanism than pulling it out, via the top. Then we can take a look at this. And before we take the measures and so on, let me just comment on this screen here, the finish here. So this is now structured as we expected to. We had some, I think it was X3 or was it also 5 Series Touring? We had some BMWs recently with a rear hatch where this one was a worse finish than before. And this is also something they paid attention now. So it's good that we often carry over the feedback, that you write some comments, that what you don't like or what you especially like, and we can gather that, take it to the manufacturer, and then have proof, hey, I say this and that, and I also have 50 comments saying this, and then they can work again on things, and that has been working quite well recently. It's pretty good. Then here also the carving trolley also fitted in vertically underneath, and then here the width is actually quite cool. So this is 1.40 meters in the ruler, and this is, you see here, further here, and even here at the lowest point, this is 1.40 meters, and here in the higher point, it even goes further than that. So that's actually a good result. The normal length is also 1.40 meters. The only thing is to fold the seats, you really have to go around like here, and then these are fixed basically. So they're fixed down, and then you have to unlock them again with this lash. So now I made this split here, for example. Underneath, we have some more space, for example, here. You can put maybe theoretically a charging cable could also fit in here, or whatever you want to use it for. Yeah, remote unlock would have been cool, definitely. That's maybe one thing that is missing. And the total length here of the trunk is so about 1.85 or 73 inches. Also, that's overall well usable, definitely. The height here at 71 centimeters or 28 inches. As for pricing, the entry-level version with the small battery and rear-wheel drive. Small battery, what might that be? I don't have to figure at the day of the shooting yet, but I would suggest it would be something 80-something kilowatt hours, maybe in the high 80s, something like that. And with the entry-level model, they also want to attack the Tesla Model Y. It will still be a little bit more expensive than the Model Y in the pricing, the final pricing, like in comparison to the Tesla Model Y long range. However, the leasing rates, BMW is usually better with leasing rates than Tesla. That might be very interesting. And it will something be 60,000 euros as the entry price then. If you go for the big battery with the all-wheel drive, like it is here right now, 69,000 euros, so like 9,000 euros extra. And if you then go for some bigger wheels, options on the interior, M Sport Pack and so on, a well-specced iX3, something 80,000 euros, can of course be a little bit more expensive when you go for these individual 22-inch wheels and so on. But more or less the price range is of a today's well-specced BMW X3 plug-in hybrid. And that is of course a very interesting thing, that this one here will catch EV premium customers, but at the same time in the entry-level version can also fight against the other, let's say, mass-sold EV SUVs. And I think this combination here, I'm pretty certain, and once again, I rather hold back on these statements, but I'm very certain that this one here will be one of the best-selling EV SUVs in the coming years. And of course, we will watch this development for you. If you have not watched me yet driving this one, including some assistance system features, I would strongly recommend to tune in to that one right now.